These Iraqis are celebrating the rise to power of a man who didn't even contest the general election. Muqtada al-Sadr has led 2 uprisings against US troops. Now he's leading a coalition that's won the highest number of seats in parliament.
You can see all the Iraqi people are out to celebrate the victory of the Marching Towards Reform Alliance in the elections. This didn't come by chance. This has happened because the people reject the corruption of the past 14 years.
But the new government will inherit an unenviable list of economic challenges. Nearly a quarter of the population lives below the poverty line. The country ranks a dismal 169th out of 180 countries on Transparency International's Corruption Index. And its ability to boost oil revenues is limited by OPEC until the end of this year. Supporters of the victorious coalition hope the result will usher in a new era of peace and economic development.
God willing, Iraq will be peaceful over the next 4 years and we will get rid of this corrupt class.
But many others aren't so sure things will improve.
I participated in the vote so as to not regret it later. We did our part, the rest is up to them. They have to carry out their duties. They have to fix the country and return it to the way it was before 2003.
Doing that will cost more than $88 billion. So far, international donors have pledged only a small fraction of that amount, leaving Iraqis with little choice but to band together and help themselves. Mobin Nasir, TRT World.
Well, for more on this, let's bring in Linda Bil-mes in Cambridge, Massachusetts. She's a senior lecturer in public policy at the Harvard Kennedy School. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Firstly, there's still a lot of uncertainty in Iraq in terms of just who will lead the government going forward after those elections. But in your book entitled The $3 Trillion War, you aimed to quantify the cost, mainly from the US side, but I'm wondering, were you able to figure out just what big an impact the war had on the Iraqi economy?
Well, we weren't able to really quantify the impact on the Iraqi economy, but just a cursory back-of-the-envelope analysis on the Iraqi economy shows that effectively the Iraqi economy collapsed. The Iraqi economy, as we know, is heavily dependent on oil, and one of the consequences of the U.S. invasion of Iraq and the aftermath throughout the period has been extremely volatile energy prices, particularly oil prices. And the Iraqi economy has not managed to successfully leave its complete dependence on oil as the major source of revenue and foreign exchange.
Yes, and the current Prime Minister, Haider al-Abadi, had sought to diversify Iraq's oil-dependent economy. Thankfully for them, oil prices are currently on the rise. But how important is it then, in your view, that whoever takes the reins of Iraq after the vote count continues this push to diversify their economy?
Well, I think that this election will be portrayed in a number of ways, and certainly with the what appears to be the leading vote getter, a strongly anti-American sort of nationalist, and the second leading vote getter, a pro-Iranian Fatah group, and the current U.S.-backed Prime Minister being third, and as I understand it, being the fifth vote getter in Iraq. But despite all of that at the top, what this election really suggests is the idea that really all politics is local, as we say in the U.S. Because first of all, the turnout was very low, reflecting much lower, about 44%, much lower than in previous elections, reflecting what many people say is just a huge amount of disillusionment with 14 years of economic crisis. And the current government has tried somewhat to diversify the economy outside of oil, but oil is still about 55% of the economy, but is only 1% of employment. So even whatever happens with oil prices and the volatility, which kind of wreaks havoc in the overall financial flows of the country, with such a small percentage of the population employed in the country's major industry, it's obvious that without a very substantial diversification, there are not going to be sufficient number of jobs, and certainly not good jobs, for the young people of the country. In addition, the resources of the country in recent years have been diverted primarily to the fight against ISIS. And the fight against ISIS has soaked up an enormous amount of resources which could have been put into diversification efforts. And third, I would say that the diversification efforts, to the extent that they have been attempted, for example, science parks at universities and that sort of effort, have largely failed due to a huge amount of squabbling and internal disagreements and corruption,
and we will
all
see,
leading to a population that is
sorry to interrupt you
extraordinarily
there, Linda.
fed up.
We will have to leave it there. Apologies, but
Yes.
thank you once again for joining us on Money Talks.